welcome back, friends. Continuing on with my Declaratio, that Benedict has been, continues to be, until his death or he properly resigns, the sovereign pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church. So I continue with point 6, part 6. And very briefly, because I will go through much more detail, and only in note form. I mean, this paper itself is, about 27 pages, including just notes of the Miller dissertation. So that's just going to be in highlight notes. But it gives you a good flavor of the dissertation. And I think if anyone's in the academic world and they're looking for a really nice historical treatment of the papacy, the office, how the church has seen it, going through the councils, it's worth the $10 by all means. And so, but I digress. And of course, I have a link to that document. Anne writes, the Miller dissertation, and Barnhart, that is, writes, the Miller dissertation is a synthesis and compendium of the Teutonic Theological Academy's intense, agonized, detailed discussions of the papacy and the need to fundamentally transform it in order to appease schismatics, with Lutherans and Anglicans in particular, and to make the papacy relevant, congruent with and acceptable to the modern democratized world. It is taken for granted that the papacy, qua absolute monarchy, is an expired paradigm. Chapter 8, she feels, is the big chapter, the important chapter. And it's titled, "The Present Crisis of the Papacy is One of Legitimation." I mean, if you didn't know that the crisis of the papacy was because it was illegitimate, now you do. And that's Walter Casper. That is a quote directly from Walter Casper, one of the leading German theologians in the world. The Freemasons, acting through the Teutonic theological schools of the 20th century, the Munus Ministerium distinction, desire was to destroy the office of the papacy. And so I note the strong condemnation by Leo the 13th, Pius the 9th, Pius the 10th, about the infiltration of Masons into the church. Taylor Marshall's book, Infiltration, The Plot to Destroy the Church from Within, 2019, just last year, documents this insidious movement clearly within the church. So I'm not quite sure just how many, how much more efforts, how many more people do we need to have tell us? We have popes, we have current scholars, we have saints, St. Pius. I mean, at some point, is it not willful? At least it was in my case, willful ignorance. Ratzinger should have heeded Pope Leo XIII's advice and immersed himself in Thomas Aquinas. Instead, he immersed himself in the heady German theology that had dominated for many decades. And this is true for each one of our lives, much to the church and world's profound sorrow. As a noted theology professor once quipped to me many years ago, all good theologians, with the exception of Ratzinger, relied heavily on Aquinas. And that's part of Ratzinger's charm, was that's true. All the good ones that I do, they do lean into Aquinas. So that Ratzinger didn't, that was kind of an anomaly. And so, you know, I could look at least to my own mind and think, well, I'm trying to be broad-minded to the Thomistic school and the non-Thomistic school without having to refer to Duns Scotus, for example. Bad ideas given impetus by brilliant minds have disastrous consequences. Benedict has a brilliant barbarian mind. Don't kid yourself about that. He has a brilliant barbarian mind. He had a powerful office, and that included when he was at the CDF and prior, and weak reliance on Thomas. I argue that this is the most serious assault on the papacy in its 2,000-year history. Why? Why is it more serious than the Borgia popes? Why is it more serious than the Arian crisis? Because those papacies did not try to teach error within doctrine. They were too busy sinning to worry about doctrine. Deus adjuvia nos omnes. Come quickly, Lord. Come quickly, Lord. So here's a big question that I get asked. Can one receive Holy Communion if it is held that Benedict and not Bergoglio is the true sovereign pontiff? And so I want to say categorically, yes. Absolutely yes. Provided that one is in the state of grace, fasted for at least an hour, and believe in the doctrine of transubstantiation. Quietly commemorating, and I mean that, quietly commemorating Benedict instead of Francis is not a grave sin, but rather an exercise of truthfulness. Saint Vincent Ferrer offered many masses commemorating an anti-pope. The church later would characterize his masses as a mistake, not invalid. A mass naming an anti-pope is characterized as a mistake as opposed to illicit or invalid. Catherine of Siena, a laywoman, recognized the true pope. So Vincent Ferrer and Catherine of Siena are on both, two sides of the fence. Recognized the true pope and commemorated the pope correctly. The USCCB gives the following statement on receiving Holy Communion. Implicit within the term Holy Communion is the doctrine of transubstantiation. As Catholics, we fully participate in the celebration of the Eucharist. When we receive Holy Communion, we are encouraged. So listen to what the bishops, rightfully in their office, tell us. This is how we may receive it. We are encouraged to receive communion devoutly and frequently. It'd be nice if the churches were open. In order to be properly disposed to receive communion, participants should not be conscious of grave sin and normally should have fasted for 1 hour. And they put normally because perhaps someone is sick or for some other serious reason can't fast for an hour. A person who is conscious of grave sin is not to receive the body and blood of the Lord without prior sacramental confession. Of course, it's nice if you can actually get to the sacraments and not have the churches shuttered, and greatly hindering the faithful from their proper exercise of their rights as body of the Christ. But I digress. Except for grave reason where there is no opportunity for confession. In this case, the person is to be mindful. All right, so that I think I did. I had at least written a blog on how to make spiritual confession, perfect contrition, and spiritual communions as well. Where there's no opportunity for communion. In this case, the person is to be mindful of the obligation to make an act of perfect contrition, including the intention of confessing as soon as possible. Canon 916. The bishops are not going to cite a canon for the laity and those who have sound mind, if they don't think we can understand it and read it for ourselves. Yes, it is sourcing why they think this way, but that helps us, the faithful, realize that the canon law is meant for us to read as well. A frequent reception of the sacrament of penance is encouraged for all. Ditto, ditto, ditto. In conclusion, with my public declaration, I pray for the purification, liberation, exaltation, I really do, each and every day, of Holy Mother Church. I entrust the Church to St. Joseph, the protector of the Holy Family and terror of demons. Through the efficacious use of the Rosary, I believe the Church will be restored and the Immaculate Heart of Mary triumphant. Dear Lord, Maranatha, 1 Corinthians 16:22. And the notes to Archbishop Michael Miller's dissertation, 1979, is attached. Till the next time, Fides et Ratio.